Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast in Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, we'll talk about an explosion that occurred in a neighborhood in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, and the police have been carrying out raids in the DeMars and other neighborhoods in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Following that incident, we shall also talk about floods, notably in the Douala 4 subdivision. Several parts were flooded today following a heavy downpour. Stay with us. Five persons have been severely injured in a bomb or an explosion in the DeMars neighborhood in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Since morning, security officials have been carrying out raids in that neighborhood and other parts of Yaoundé's Manjikan Gabriel Hasman.
It was a tight security that Equinoxe television crew met at the DeMars roundabout in the Yaoundé 3 subdivision under the heavy downpour. The presence of the police, gendarmes and army comes after an artificial bomb exploded at the roundabout Thursday evening.
Around 6. So we were just around. So we just realized that something happened at this corner because we have a friend of us that used to sell shoes there around. Yes. So we just hear boom and realized that something happened. We fastly reached the place and realized that the guy was born. More than 5 people, yes, was born yesterday. So we thank God that no person died.
It was at a private clinic situated some 100 meters away from the place where the bomb exploded that one of the victims received first aid treatment.
Nous avons reçu ici hier aux environs de...
We received the lady here at about 7 p.m. for first aid treatment, but since we didn't have adequate equipment, the police came and collected her to the same place other injured persons have been kept. The woman had a second-degree burn. Her situation was very critical since her skin started swelling.
Parce que quand elle est arrivée ici, sa peau n'était pas comme ça. Bon, fait à mesure, quand on a placé le soluté, la peau a commencé à gonfler.
A total of 5 persons were wounded by the explosion, with 2 persons under critical condition. It is beneath the pole where the surveillance camera is placed that the locally fabricated bomb exploded. Many are now hoping that with the aid of the images that will be retrieved from the surveillance camera, the perpetrators of the crime will be arrested. Tongues are now wagging with different speculations about this latest explosion at the DeMars roundabout, a place which is usually crowded mostly in the evening. The DeMars roundabout is the meeting point for most persons, commercial bike riders, buy-and-sellers and other business operators. After blocking all possible access ways into DeMars, security forces embarked in searching houses and bags of those who were coming into the neighborhood. The bomb blast at the DeMars roundabout is the third occurring in Cameroon's political capital within 2 weeks.
Leaders of the separatist movement in the southwest and northwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon have started discussing with some top officials of the Republic of Cameroon in view of declaring a ceasefire in those 2 regions hit by a socio-political and security crisis which swiftly moved and degenerated into an armed conflict and has been going on Cameroon for close to 4 years today. And yesterday, Sisiku, Ayuk Tabe, and some other leaders detained at the Kondengi maximum security prison in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, met with some top officials of the Republic in a Catholic institution in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. And this meeting is coming on the heels of a resolution by the United Nations Security Council calling for a global ceasefire within the context of the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. It should be recalled that the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres had earlier urged nations to declare a ceasefire, nations involved in a crisis to declare a ceasefire, and there have been calls on the Cameroon government to declare ceasefire, calls coming from political, civil society leaders, human rights organizations, non-governmental organizations within and without Cameroon. But the ceasefire is yet to come. However, negotiations have started between the Cameroon government and the separatist leaders ahead of a ceasefire expected to be declared in the two Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon. Yesterday, Sisiku Ayuk Tabe met with a delegation led by a top official from the presidency of the Republic in Yaoundé. We'll be coming back to this in greater details and we'll be updating you as soon as we are informed. We're going to be talking more about this in the second part of today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Now we're going over to the southwest region to talk about persons forced out of their homes by the Anglophone crisis. Some inhabitants of Tombel who were out of their who have been out of their homes for a long period of time because of continuous violence and gun battles between separatists and military officers in that part of the country have started returning home gradually, while the minister delegate at the Ministry of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Paul Tasson, leading the reconstruction plan for the two regions, has been in the two regions, in the northwest and in the southwest regions, fast-tracking the return to peace and normalcy through the reconstruction project. According to him, the project is intended to facilitate the return to peace and normalcy in those two regions. Innocent has more.
Tombel in Kupe Manenguba division of the southwest region. Children and parents, victims of the over 3 years old armed conflict, are now engaged in petty trades for survival and attainment of other social goals. Some of them are returned internally displaced persons.
We are suffering, but it's not too bad now because people are coming small. We don't have money to buy foodstuff. We have children in the house who will be crying for food. There's no money to start up a business.
Things are not easy as this crisis has come and scatters people who have frustrated, those who are doing their business. They are not able to cash up. If they even return back, and we pray that let the government do something for this crisis. Let the government really speak, because we are suffering much.
It is due to these sufferings they face to readapt that persons of goodwill, not living out PCC Tombel, reach out to them with food items and other basic commodities.
I'm representing Reverend Dr. Lois Ekwe. Notice that the population are gaining ground here in Tombel, but they are facing difficulties. They have little or nothing to eat. Reason why she deemed it necessary to bring aid to them. And what we have given them is to boost their morals.
We as Tombel, we are thanking Reverend Lois Ekwe for this special help that he has sent to us.
Thank you for Reverend Lois Ekwe for what you have done for us. We are very, very grateful, because in our country now there is a lot of problems, especially in Tombel.
The IDPs voluntarily returned to resume life at the time when the reconstruction and development plan of the head of state, Paul Biya, is being thrown as corn by Minister Paul Tasson and his team for foul catch.
Innocent as reporting there, the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, has decided to raise the retirement age for civil servants in the public health sector to 60 for category A and B workers, and to 55 for category C and D workers. This is contained in a presidential decree signed today, and in another presidential decree, the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, appointed Dora Ngum Shu as President of the National Blood Transfusion Center. He also appointed the country's representative at the United Nations organization in Switzerland, and Ehed Solomon will be henceforth the new ambassador of Cameroon at the United Nations organization. Now to the Douala 4 subdivision, where several homes and neighborhoods were overflooded today, and the problem of floods has been constant during the rainy season, not only in the town of Douala but in many other parts of the Republic of Cameroon, and several persons, including some inhabitants of neighborhoods like Mabanda, Grand Anga and other parts of the Douala 4 subdivision, are blaming the situation on the absence or the inadequate construction of drainage patterns, and also the indiscriminate construction of houses. Some of the houses are constructed on drainage patterns, and so the runoff will flood into homes, as you can see in those images earlier. Today, several parts of the Douala 4 neighborhood were simply overflooded, and the movement of persons and even vehicles became quite difficult as a result of the situation in that part of the country's economic capital, Douala. And Robert Mukube talked to one of the inhabitants. Take a listen.
Yeah, I'm called Mr. Tabongwa Tobias. We are here at Rai, Bonaberi. So how you people are seeing there is a lot of water. The problem in this quarter is because people are just building houses without even giving passes where water can even pass. As people can see, there's no way that the water, there's no drainage at all. And then the second, how people can see Satom, all the water from Borajo the Rai, Marche the Rai, all everything is passing back in this quarter. They just direct everything and give to this quarter. They don't even come and arrange it. How they don't even put gutter. We don't even have gutters. That's why you are seeing people are suffering. Like people can see my car, all is full of water. I just parked the car here in the morning. All is full of water. So we really need help. We need help from.
I am Abraham Excel, hallelujah, a Reverend pastor. I live here. I've been living here for, this is the 7th year I've been living in this place. This is Suriko, behind Ancien Sonnel, where the Sonnel was commercial bank was before. So now this situation we're passing here is very, very, very terrible. Nobody can sleep restfully because you are afraid, you don't know when the rain is going to come. And everywhere, the whole houses, everywhere is filled, overflowed with water. It's terrible. We're asking the government if there is anything they can do to help the people living in this quarter. Please, they should hastily do it because the rain is just beginning. We have suffered this about 2 or 3 times this year already, and this is the 3rd of June. And I don't know what is going to happen. 3rd of July, sorry, and it's August has not yet come. July has not even begun completely. So it is terrible. People are suffering. School children cannot go to school. It's terrible. If you dress to go out in the morning, you cannot go out because the rain has fallen and it has entered the house. And it's wet chairs and everything has to be carried up. So it is terrible. I'm imploring the government that if there is anything they should do, they can do, let them do it quickly to save the lives of those who are suffering and to deliver us from the sufferings.
In the report coming up next, Immaculate Fogwe paints the chronic underdevelopment picture of a locality in the Senegal Maritime Division, littoral region of Cameroon. We are taking you to Ngambe Tika. We are taking you to Ngambe, a locality in the Senegal Maritime Division, littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon, where life is quite difficult for the inhabitants because of chronic underdevelopment challenges affecting the locality of Ngambe in the Senegal Maritime Division. Talking Point is up next. Now,
this is what the road users of the Manawa Bay Mabeta stretch of road in Limbe 3 subdivision are going through. The deplorable situation of the road that has greatly affected social and economic life of the people of Limbe 3 subdivision. Thursday, July 2nd, 2020, pushed the commercial motorbike riders barricading and holding activities along the stretch of road for hours.
Taxpayer they pay in money, they give for one individual, say make it come fix the road. But this particular company, it goes down, instead for fix the road, it goes spoil the road instead. Before now, we will manage the road, but since where it come, the road be practically inaccessible.
The way the condition for the road day will not be better.
The commercial motorbike riders say the repairs of their bikes is now a constant routine.
The machine no make 4 months, same machine check all. And I no feel like my people please me die. So I make all effort for try for help the people. Same machine check.
Farmers and business women involved in the buying of farm produce and crayfish, better known as njanga, say the hikes in transport fare due to the deplorable nature of the road is having an adverse effect on their business.
We go Mabeta, we will the first pay 2,000. Now they pay 5,000. We will go buy njanga for how much? We can't sell for how much? So this year I say all these things so now waste of time.
I go find small chop. For buy for carry that chop for calm down a problem just because of the bad road.
The situation brought out the mayor to the Limbe 3 Council, Seke Diboti Loma, and the divisional officer of Limbe 3 subdivision, Epole Ewane, who needed to apply diplomacy for the commercial motorbike riders to uplift their strike actions.
The
DO say the deplorable road situation is equally having a negative effect on her job.
I can't access my office now for over a month. It's terrible. The road is really deplorable, as I'm telling you.
The people of Limbe 3 subdivision, which is the economic hub of the entire Limbe and one of the main source of crayfish, better known as njanga, in the entire country, are begging on the government to intervene so as to remedy the situation. It is not the first time the people of Limbe 3 subdivision are complaining of the situation of the road, and officials of the contracting company have maintained a sealed lip.
Our Limbe-based correspondent Davidson Maimo reporting on the deplorable state of the road leading to Mabeta in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. Now we come back to the meeting between some separatist leaders yesterday and some top government officials in the nation's political capital Yaoundé in view of a ceasefire in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. We take this reaction from the national president of the Popular Action Party, PAP, Njang Dennis. Take a listen.
Calling for a global ceasefire in line with the actually the information team of the Popular Action Party recently got the news of the backdoor meeting held between the government of Cameroon and the separatist leaders, or the jail separatist leaders, that is Seseko and Co. We salute and support such an initiative put in place by the two parties, because it goes a long line to implement the decision taken by the United Nations Security Council calling for a global ceasefire in line with the COVID-19 pandemic. We really appreciate such a move, and we encourage both parties to be very sincere in the discussion. We, as a Popular Action Party, we say that such a move should not be limited only at the level of the jailed separatist leaders. It should be very, very inclusive. That is, need to include all the actors concerned as far as this crisis is concerned. I'm talking about even those in the diaspora. And we are also looking at a situation where we are calling on an independent body to guarantee that the both parties, whatever they agree upon, should be in the eyes of an independent body, which is the UN. And we are also very much concerned that the content of such a negotiation should go a long way to look into the deep cause or the root cause of the worries of the Anglophone, and guarantee that autonomy which most of the Anglophones have been vying for. In fact, as a party, we have even gone as far as talking about revisiting the 1961 Constitution. Whatever be the situation or whatever be the agreement, I think it is a laudable initiative. We support such a move, and we call on all the parties to be very sincere without any preconditions. I think we see it as the first step towards looking into it.
Jang Dini is National President of the Popular Action Party, speaking. The talking point is up next. Thanks for staying with us in Talking Points. We're receiving a politician, John Stamford, the Secretary General of Moderna Political Party. John, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be here today to see how we contribute to nation building. You know, we have been putting in much effort to see that this nation becomes its real self, because what we are having here is not the nation Cameroon that we all are hoping to have.
What do you think about the move by some of the separatist leaders, Sisiku Ayuktabe and others, and some top government officials who met yesterday in Yaoundé?
I think that move is applaudable. I don't know, but I'm sure, and I wanted to say I don't know who initiated it, but from all indication, it is the government that initiated the move, because for over 4 years now, we have been calling on the government to call these individuals, sit with them on the table, and let them discuss their differences, so that the killings and atrocities that have been going on in the Northwest and the Southwest can come to an end. This is the move that we expected during what was called the national dialogue. If these leaders of the separatist movement were called to the table at the national dialogue, I think that will not be where we are today with this crisis that has destroyed the Northwest and the Southwest.
And so now that the two parties are coming closer, are coming from their extreme positions, gradually moving towards the center in a discussion with regards to a possible implementation of a ceasefire in the two Anglophone regions of the country. Can we expect anything positive from such a meeting?
Talking about ceasefire, I would say yes, that they have left their extremist positions, but talking about their what they want in their positions, I don't think that they have left their position so far until proven so. Because when I see the tweet that the Sisiku Ayuktabe left this afternoon on his page, which says that they are still committed to the restoration of the independence of their homeland, which means that that position has not yet been left. So we are hoping that in these negotiations, they should come to a compromise with the government and see how they can have a common grounds of agreement, so that the war can come to an end. Because we are now talking about, because the ceasefire is because of the coronavirus. After the coronavirus, are the arms going to start flying all over again? That is the question that we are asking. And our wish is that the ceasefire should start and does not resurface again. That if people drop their arms now, negotiations should continue until the war comes to an end.
Yes, you rightly indicated that the leaders of the separatist movement have made it clear that they are standing firm on the struggle the struggle to restore the independence of the former Southern Cameroons. But now that they are coming into discussions with the Yaoundé administration, they are coming from the extremes, gradually moving in terms of physical movement anyway, not psychological or ideological movement, because from the ideological point of view, there are still extremist positions that are being expressed here and there. But can this physical movement, can this physical closure bring a change in some of the extremist stance?
Absolutely, because they say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. This is the first step that has been taken so far that is concrete and uploadable by everybody. So we believe that if there are all sincere, there will be a way out. But the question I've been asking myself is, if the government knew that they were going to take this step, why did they give money out for reconstruction of the Northwest and the Southwest? I think that if they knew that they were going to take this step, they would have taken the step first of all, called for a ceasefire before reconstructing Northwest and the Southwest. Because now they are negotiating for a ceasefire. We don't know if at the end of the day they will all agree to lay down weapons and then wait for the coronavirus to come to an end while the negotiations continue. So I believe, and we are hoping, that positive results come out of these meetings.
What should be some of the guidelines of such meetings, such negotiations? The president, the national president of the PAP was talking, for example, of the fact that he thinks there should be no preconditions. There should be no conditions, and it should be a kind of an open discussion.
Yes, I am of that point of view too, because but when we talk of preconditions and we talk of extremist positions, because it is the extremist positions that bring preconditions, even though the preconditions may not be voiced out, but they are there. Because there are things that if they are not brought to the table, people will not agree. So if both parties can leave their extremist positions, before maybe they can meet on maybe federation or maybe confederation at the end of the day. Because so far the secessionists are still for secession, and the government is still for a united Cameroon. So we see that they still maintain their extremist positions. Now, if we have to go out of this, there should be a third party, a mediator, like the UN or any third party of a choice who is neutral, to come and be a witness of the discussions. Because after these discussions, we need to see actions, because the negotiation can still take place, and at the end of the day, people are still killing people somewhere in the Northwest and the Southwest regions.
Of course, negotiations started with the dissolved Anglophone Civil Society Consortium, which went on for a period of time, and when no agreement was coming on the table, the consortium was dissolved, the leaders arrested and jailed. Can we imagine such a scenario?
We cannot imagine such a scenario, given that those who are on the table for negotiation on the part of the separatists the separatist leaders are already serving a life sentence in prison. So will you catch them again to imprison them for the second time? No, the only thing that can be done.
No, I'm talking about the deadlock. I'm talking about the deadlock that put an end to the negotiations between the government of Cameroon and the dissolved civil society consortium or Anglophone Civil Society Consortium.
I think that nothing of that nature will resurface again, because if it does, it means that the government is running in a bag. Because you cannot continue doing the same thing year in and year out and you expect different results. Because I believe if the consortium that was created then was listened to and measures were put in place and people were sincere in what they thought and what they said, I think we would not be here today. So if the government has to make the same error, because I would say it was an error the government committed, and we are suffering the consequences now. Because at that when the consortium came up, they said that there was no Anglophone problem, And that because the representative, the Abangma, the Bala, and the others who were there, they said that if we don't tell the authorities that were sent to come and discuss with the consortium what is really going on the field, our families and our lives will be in danger. Because those from our side were given warnings that if you people don't discuss well, you will not be free from us. Now they were forced to tell the truth, and the government did not accept the truth and decided to attack them enemies, separatists and terrorists, and then started following them, running after them, somewhere on the run up to today. So the government will not commit such an error again for the second time.
The government will not commit such an error for the second time. Njang Din is national president of the PAP, talked about those abroad. We know that there are other leaders who are abroad. There are people like Dr. Sako and other leaders who are outside there. Negotiations are going on or will be going on between the government and those who are in the country. What about those outside?
I think those outside is not really the problem, because when you look critically, you realize that ever since Esiseku Ayoktabe got into prison, that is when the initiation of Ghost Town started on Mondays. So you realize that he is someone who has influence, because those of the diaspora, at one point, we discovered them fighting among themselves, which means that maybe they may have interest that is not that of the people on ground. So we believe that Ayoktabe is the person who still have an upper hand to tell those in the bushes that lay down your arms and they will do. So if the government, because during the national dialogue, we were hoping that the government would bring out Ayoktabe and those that were at the forefront of this fight from the word-go to the table, because the other people came in later on when Ayoktabe was caught. Now he remains the president that the government is having in holding. If Ayoktabe was of least important and those of the diaspora were important, I think he would have been released. If he still held, it means that he still have an upper hand over the struggle of the struggle of independence of the Ambazonians.
But there's another person who has taken over his position of leadership, Dr. Sako. If government ends discussions with these people here, and then outside there is another command, there is another...
No. I hear they call Dr. Sako an interim president, which means that he is a president because the acting president is in jail. Given that if the acting president comes out of jail, he takes back his position, and then Dr. Sako goes elsewhere. So there will be no argument. I don't think there will be any argument if decisions are taken, good decisions. Because when you see the position of those in jail, represented by Ayo, who said that they are still committed, it means that they are fighting for the people. And ever since this afternoon, we have not had any controversy from the part of the Ambazonians. It means that they are all in accordance with what Ayo said. They believe that Ayo is there to negotiate for them. So if they have this confidence in Ayo, I think that any decision that Ayo takes will be fruitful, because what we are expecting now is the person who will say, lay down your weapons, and the weapons are laid down. That is what the government will have done when they called for the national dialogue. If they had called for this Ayoktabe and they discussed on the table and had a compromise, I don't think we'll be here today. And I think on that discussion, in these discussions, there should be no taboo. Let people speak their minds, and so that they can come to a compromise and have a position and let the war come to an end.
All right. What about the reconstruction project in the northwest and southwest regions of the country? What do you think about that project and the manner in which government is going about it, going to sensitize the people, discussing with the people, getting information from across the board, civil society, political, religious, administrative authorities who are in those two regions? And the leader of that plan, Paul Tasson, says that the intention is to fast-track the return to peace and normalcy.
The same consultations that we had during the national dialogue. And after the consultations, we had the national dialogue, and the national dialogue came and passed, and the war continued. So consultation from the part of the government has not been a solution to the problem so far. So we are hoping they do something else. As I said earlier, that if the government knew that they were going to call for these guys to discuss ceasefire with them, they would have discussed the ceasefire. When the bullets stop flying, now they start talking about reconstruction. Meanwhile, reconstruction during a ceasefire is not even the solution, because ceasefire does not guarantee peace. Ceasefire does not mean end of the fight or of the war. Ceasefire can be today and tomorrow the war resumes. So the government should look for lasting solutions to this problem. It is so surprising that the government is only guided by the international body, the UNO. Meanwhile, how can the UN come in to tell you that you should call for a ceasefire? Meanwhile, you are killing each other in the country. The same children of the same family fighting against each other. What for? If it was a war between a nation and the other, it would have been different. But these are brothers and sisters fighting. And somebody has to come from somewhere to tell you to stop the fight. Is it making any sense? It is not making any sense. So the government should forget about this thing of holding negotiations for a ceasefire because of the COVID-19 and face the real problem, solve it so that there should be a permanent peace in the northwest and the southwest region. Because we are talking about ceasefire here. I don't know how far the ceasefire will go. Because ceasefire doesn't mean that the armed boys will go to arrest and the soldiers will go back to the barracks. How will the community look like? Will it resume? I don't want to be tempted to think that they are doing it this way to cover up the ceasefire and call it that they have resolved the Anglophone problem, which will be a cosmetic resolution of the problem, because the problem is there and people are fighting for what they believe in. For you to stop the fight, you have to give them reason why they should not fight for what they believe in.
But the reason which up to now the leaders of the struggle stand for is their nation, our nation, restoration of the independence of former Southern Cameroons. And government says, no, I can't divide the country. The head of state says, no, the country is one and indivisible. The prime minister says the country cannot be divided.
You see, when we start thinking like this, we will go back to the beginning of this crisis. What happened? We know that the Anglophone problem has been there for over 50 years now. But what brought up this armed conflict? People went to the street. Before going to the street, we had the lawyers and the teachers who tabled certain demands that were not met by the government. Instead of the government looking into their troubles, they sent the forces of law and order to trash the teachers and the lawyers. And now, people now went to the street with peace plans. If the government had listened to the consortium, we wouldn't have had people asking for separation. If the government had listened to the consortium, that okay, since you people say that you people are marginalized, what should we do? They will have sat on the table and said that it is maybe better that a meeting point should be that we should go back to the 1961 constitution. Respect everything in the 1961 constitution. There will have been peace with everybody living here. Because during the 1961 constitution, Cameroon was still Cameroon. Nothing changed. But because some group of people wanted to fit on order like a god, they decided to violate everything, change the constitution, and today we are suffering the consequences. People have died. I have lost brothers, I have lost sisters, and I am not happy about the war. I want the war to come to an end as soon as possible. Now, if the government had failed, and now if they have realized themselves, it is a good thing. But they should do it with sincerity. Call these guys to the table. Because now the more you delay to solve this problem, because when you look at when they started asking for separation, it is due to the delayance of the government to address the problem rightfully. We had people denying that there was no Anglophone problem. Meanwhile, deep in their heart, they knew there was an Anglophone problem. If there is somebody who is to tell me what happened in 1961, I think Mr. Biya will tell me, because I was not there. My mother was not even born then. So Mr. Biya was there. So what I am saying is this. The government still have a role to play to make sure that this problem comes to an end, because they know what to do, they should do it. And now I would propose the same thing that had been proposed by others. Ningwanyam spoke of confederation. Because earlier, when people were proposing federation, that we should go back to the federal system of governance, they said federation is a taboo. Now they are negotiating with the same terrorists. They said they will not negotiate with terrorists. If you know that this thing will solve a problem, why not do it and solve the problem and wait until when people have died in their numbers before you accept what you refuse from the way go? Because at the end of the day, maybe they will begin to accept a federation, and these guys will say that we don't need federation again, we need better independence. So we are proposing that if they maybe put things like a confederation on the table, maybe they can come to a compromise. If not, I don't know how the government envisages to solve this problem, because the problem will never be solved on a battlefield.
The solution to the problem, according to John Stanfu, is confederation. Cameroon should adopt the confederal system of government. And this is where we are putting an end to this edition of the news. John Stanfu, thanks for coming.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.